morning and welcome to this episode of the Digital Access Show, where we focus on communication, accessibility, digital accessibility in particular, and disability. What is the link between the three? Interaction. Communication provides an interaction between people. People with disability often have a problem with communication because the digital content is not built for this. Now, my guest today is a lady with a difference, and I am really excited to have her on the show. And what's the difference? Well, this is Shiralee's first time she's on a podcast. So, ladies and gentlemen, please meet Shiralee McKitrick. Shiralee, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Shiralee, can you tell us a bit about yourself and your family?
Yeah, I have two boys. They're teenagers now, and our disability is quite a hodgepodge. We have chromosomal deletions. So basically, we have our chromosomes, and I like to explain it as a library. Each chromosome is a library, and it teaches your body how to build things: brains, eyes, body parts. Our library is incomplete. So in that library, we're missing books. And because we're missing books, our bodies did not make things in our brains that we need to function. My boys are missing 12 books. That makes it sometimes difficult for them to live their lives. And I'm missing 27 books.
Wow.
So that makes it more difficult to live our lives. So we've got things like autism and ADHD. We also have hypermobility, joint problems, heart problems, eye problems, you name it, because the books weren't there. The books weren't there to build the bits that we need.
Shiralee, how do they diagnose that? That's really interesting.
Yes. What happened is when I had my first son, he had a difficult birth, and so they thought that his problems were due to a difficult birth. And I did ask them if it was chromosomal, and they said, no, it's just difficult birth. And I was like, okay. So I had my second son straight after, and he had the same problems, and they were like, this doesn't look right.
Yeah.
And when I went to physiotherapy with them, they said, oh, we think they've got Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And I said, oh, how do we test for that? And they said, oh, well, you need to do a DNA test. And so we did the DNA test, and they came back and they said, you don't have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, but you do have something. And I'm like, oh, what is it? And they said, well, you get to name it. Because, they put all the deletions into the worldwide data bank, and usually that will spit out a syndrome of chromosomal deletions. There is nobody else in the world has our specific set of chromosomal deletions. My set or the boys' set, because they had to test us as well to make sure that it was a familiar thing and not just an environmental thing that just popped up. So we've been walking down the road of working out why things happen when things happen. Is it a chromosomal thing? Is it an environmental thing? They can't tell us anything about anything. Life expectancy and all that kind of stuff is just based on our familiar patterns, which is normal. And so we just truck along as we truck along, and when things pop up, we just deal with them as they come along. So there's a lot of physical problems which you can't see. Boys needed braces and jaw realignments because our brains chromosomes didn't know how to make our faces properly. So there's hearing problems as well, which you can't see because it's all inside the brain. From what we can gather, it's mainly in the face and the brain. as well as hypermobility and low collagen, which makes us very stretchy and prone to fall down a lot if we're tired.
Okay, this is getting really interesting because you actually have a background in science as well, don't you?
I do. I do. It's one of my hyperfixations. I do like it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do a lot about genetics though.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I do have a science degree.
Yeah.
Um, and so this is all very fascinating for me. It does
Yeah.
help a little bit with trying to explain things,
Mm-hmm.
like the library with books. You know, if you don't
Yeah.
have the book, you can't make the thing.
Yeah.
You know, it seems to make it easier to explain things to people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just because I don't have the books in my brain doesn't mean that people can't do science degrees. My eldest is actually looking to go to university to do computer programming,
Yep.
which is exciting because, yeah, when he was first diagnosed with everything, they said he wouldn't even live, really. He'd be a vegetable.
Oh my
So
gosh.
they told me to don't worry about the therapies, don't worry about anything, just love him as he is, kind of thing. And they suggested that I needed psychiatric support because the first time they told me that, I looked at him and I said, "This boy's going to go to university." And they said,
Yeah.
"This boy can't even hold his head up at 3.
Yeah.
He can't even hold his own body weight."
Yeah.
What do you mean? You know, he hasn't even made a noise of
Yeah.
any description. What do you mean he's going to university?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, he's going to go to university, and yeah, he has a normal IQ. Um,
Yep.
you couldn't pick him out in a crowd. Besides the fact that
Yep.
his voice is a little muffled because of his auditory processing, everything
Mm-hmm.
sounds muffled to him, so that's how he speaks. Which
Wow.
does make people think that he's not always all there. But he has a higher vocabulary than
Yeah.
most teenagers of his age.
And he's
So
16 or 17.
he's 16 turning 17.
Yeah.
My youngest is 15 turning 16.
Yep.
He was diagnosed with autism when he was 2, which is, well, actually 18 months, but
Yep.
that which is quite unusual. But he was so classic that they just went, yeah. And the way I found out about him was actually his eldest went to a special daycare,
Yeah.
and he would come with, and they went, "Would you like to bring him in for daycare as well?" And I was like, "Why?" Because when your firstborn's different, you don't know what's normal and what's not normal. And they
Yeah.
went, "Oh,
That's true.
no, no reason, no reason. Would you just like to bring him in?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And yeah, he's diagnosed with the highest level of autism.
Oh
They
gosh.
do the scales now, so
Yep.
the social, the interactive,
Mm.
the daily living, the his is off the charts,
Yep.
absolutely off the charts. Um, but he is a very articulate, social, bubbly. He's got a huge group of friends.
Yep.
You could not pick him out in a lineup. In
Yep.
fact, the government tried.
Mm. What happened? Tell me this.
When he was younger, they had a thing down here where they wanted people with disabilities more support in the school. So they were bringing out
Yep.
what's called the Gowan Act.
Yep.
And they wanted to do a big PR thing. And they selected his school. And
Mm.
they said, "Oh, we need the most disabled child because we want to do this big PR thing about how disabled children can get into schools."
Yep.
And they were like, "Oh, we know exactly who you want. You want my child, because he's so like top of the charts autism. I mean,
Yep.
never met another autistic child like it." And they're like, "Oh,
Yep.
brilliant." we'll come down. And
Yeah.
they came down with their cameras, and like the politicians were there, and they
Oh,
went
even the
into the school.
politicians.
Even the politician. Oh yeah, they wanted this. It was going to be in the papers, in the online, in the
Yeah.
news kind of thing. They all came down, and it was a school assembly, and they were searching for the wheelchairs, they were searching for the canes and the
Yeah.
teachers' aides and all this kind of stuff. And like, oh, where is he? And they said, oh, we'll bring him up to you. I got him. And here's my child bopping along, and he put out his hand, and he's like, hi, you're looking for me? And they were like, we need the disabled child. And they went, he's the most disabled child in our school. And they went, no. We want a disabled child. And he's like, yeah, that's me. And he rattled off all these things, and he's like, I hear you want to interview me. I'm really excited about it. And they were like, no. Nah. And they all
So
left.
they refused and
They
left and left him
refused,
hanging.
and they left.
Oh my gosh.
And I
What
think they went to another
was the
school and picked
effect?
somebody else. But
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
What was the effect on your son then?
he thought it was funny as heck. He
Yeah.
was
Oh
just like,
gosh.
yeah, he no bruise to his ego whatsoever. He was just
Yeah.
confused. He was like,
Yeah.
but I thought they wanted, because he thought they wanted him for him,
Yeah.
because in our family, nobody's disabled. This is our family. And
Yeah.
so they got no concept of anything else.
Yes.
And so for people to pick him out for his disability is just a foreign concept to him, because he's just like, well, they want me for me.
Yeah.
They don't want me for my disability, because everybody's, got their own issues.
Yeah.
And whilst other people might not have as many as us, I mean, everybody's got a preference for cars. Everybody has a preference for tying their shoes. Everybody's got a preference for how they get from A to B, whether it's a wheelchair, whether it's a car, whether it's walking, whether it's everybody's got their preferences. And so he didn't understand, and he didn't care, but he was just like, oh, they're going to go find somebody else to talk to that maybe has their preference. I wasn't their preference, so they're going to go and find somebody else who's the right preference. Because that's how we are in this family. We don't see, because, we grew up, and they grew up going to a different daycare, which had different things in it. And it had, kids in wheelchairs, and kids that didn't like crust on their sandwiches, and kids that couldn't touch the blue block, and kids that could only go to one sort of toilet. That's normal for them, so they don't see the world, and I don't teach them that the world's any different, because it isn't.
Isn't that interesting? Because really what you're talking about are people's perceptions, and all the way through everything you've said is people's perceptions and the beliefs, the underlying beliefs that are fueling those perceptions.
And everybody thinks that they're not part of that, which, with my own disability and my own perceptions of things, I find fascinating, because there has been times where we have been discriminated against, or the perception's been different, because teachers will read these huge, I mean, they've got mountains of paperwork about the things that these children can and can't do. And then they see them and they're like, you're a functioning human being. And we've had people come at us that might, what they considered themselves to be neurotypical or normal or whatever. And they, they're like, oh, but your children, only like chicken nuggets or whatever. But then they're what they call normal, and they'll be like, oh, I don't like sauce on my burger. Oh, I don't like, potato. I only like sweet potato fries. I only, and it's like, what's the difference? Just because I got a label attached to mine because I need medical help and things and
Yeah.
stuff. Uh, I'm no different to you just because I like a different food and you like a different food. I have a different way of doing things. You have a different way of doing things.
Yeah.
I found it fascinating with the physiotherapist actually because the boys struggled tying their shoes.
Yeah.
And I was trying to teach them to tie the shoes my way because I thought there
Yeah.
was only a certain amount of ways to tie a shoe. And
Oh,
the physiotherapist said to me, do you know that every single person on the face of this planet has a different way of tying their shoes?
oh, really?
Yeah, nobody ties their shoes the same way. They might look the same, but where they
Yep.
place their fingers on the length of the lace, which
Yeah.
hand they start with first, which bow
Yep.
goes first, whether they use a bow, whether they use a knot, whether everybody's different. I was like, that is fascinating. That
And it
like,
really, yeah, it just, this is getting more and more fascinating because, okay, if we've looked at that part. What about on the IT side, the digital content side? What type of issues do you have yourself? Yeah, Shiralee, because you're saying
oh,
you've got these 27 chromosomal issues. What
the
type of
internet
issues?
is interesting. Computers
Yeah,
are fascinating.
yeah,
I have to get a lot of help from the boys, um,
yeah,
because and even they have trouble deciphering things.
yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, my eldest is biggest computer nerd known to mankind, and my youngest is following eagerly in his footsteps. But like colors are why do people have a click now and it's red? That signals danger in my head, and
Yeah,
I don't know where to do this thing. And sometimes you'll hit the next button, but you didn't need to hit the next button. It'll just do its thing. And other times, like people will send me stuff and they're like, oh, Shirley, you just, send me an email or whatever. And I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know, like, how do I do? I just take photos of things. Like I worked out
Okay.
now on the computer how to like photo it and share it. But
Yeah.
like even starting this Zoom call
Mm,
took me, I had to like prepare,
yeah.
30, 40 minutes beforehand because evidently I had Zoom, but I didn't have Zoom workshop. And then I had to like reload Zoom workshop and then it didn't want to work properly. And I was like, do I shut this down because it's got the wheel going? But if I shut it down, do I have to start all over again? And
Yep.
then do I need to bring up another one? And
Oh my God.
it's
So, how do your sons manage their schoolwork? How do you work with your sons with the schoolwork? And because I know teachers will say, yeah, I want you to write an assignment about
mm,
Japanese history.
mm-hmm.
How do your sons manage that? How do you manage that? Yeah,
They'll leave it. If it's just like that, they will leave it. They will leave
really.
it until, yeah, they will ignore it.
Oh,
And I
wow.
won't know because the teachers won't tell me until I get a call saying they didn't do their assignment. And I'll be like, oh, when was that supposed to start? And they were like, about a month ago. And I'm like, did you tell me? And they were like, well, they're 15 and 16. They don't need that. And I'm like, yes, they do, because they don't understand the importance of things.
Yeah.
They don't understand that this is important. Once they
Mm.
understand that it's important, then they will do it.
Yeah.
But to them, there is no hierarchy of importance. Running from a burning building is
Mhm.
the same importance as pouring a glass of milk to them.
Mm.
They don't understand why running from a burning building is more important than pouring a glass of milk.
Yeah.
They don't have the bit in their brain. Um, they don't have fight or flight. Both boys,
Okay.
they don't have reflexes. You know when you fall down and you put your
Yep.
arm out because you're
Yep.
automatically like, they don't have that.
Okay. Yep.
They will just face plant straight into the ground.
Oh, wow. So,
They
what can the
do
teachers
not.
do? How do you
Um,
manage that as a parent? What should the teachers be doing,
I
considering
asked the
this world
teachers
of
to
digital
let
technology?
yeah, I asked the teachers to let me know when they just CC me in. That's all they
Yeah.
have to do. Just
Yeah.
CC me in.
Yeah.
And then I can sit with them and go, okay, this is important. And they know when they're told it's important, like when they're in the classroom and the teacher's like, now this is very important for this. They're talking to other people. They're not talking to me. They didn't use my name. So if they want, because this is where we're at now with 15 and 16. So the teachers usually make an appointment with them at lunchtime and sit them down and go, this is important.
Yeah.
And they will give them a countdown list.
Yeah.
And instead of handing the whole assignment in, hand in your introduction on this date. Hand in your body on that date.
Yeah.
Hand in your conclusion on that date. And then they can also go, this is the rubric. The kids now know what a rubric is, and they can tick the bits off. Have I done this bit? Tick.
Yeah.
Have I done that bit? Tick.
So
and then they know they're on track. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Usually it's like A, B, C, D, and like if you want an A, this is what you must include. If you want a B, this is what you must include. It's what the teachers use to mark. They mark it against what's called a rubric, and each A, B, C, D like grade has what needs to be in the assignment to get that mark.
Wow.
So for them, it's extremely logical. There is no thought put in it. If they want an A, and this is why I can happily get mad at them, because I'm like, you picked the B. I know you picked the B because you've got a B. Because that's all they do. It's just follow the rubric. And it doesn't matter what words they use, what fancy words they use, or what little words they... If they say in the rubric, you must include the trade route from Japan to China, and they include the trade route from to China, they get the mark. Now, if you include the trade route from Japan to China, you get a C. If you include the trade route from Japan to China and you include the boat, you get a B. If you include the trade route from Japan to China and you include the boat, what was on the boat and why it was significant, tick, 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 A.
Oh my God. So really, digital content needs to be very structured for them, very objective, black and white, dot points. So
very literal.
If they're very literal, if they're on a website that has everything thrown at it, it's gone. Too much.
Gone. And if it's all like, this will make you feel like a superhero, they're like, that's not logical. Click.
Yeah.
But it's also a case of if you, stop smoking, you'll add 10 years to your life. And they're like, well, how do I stop smoking when I never started smoking? Maybe I should start smoking because then I can stop it and add 10 years to my life.
Yes.
And it's like, dude.
It doesn't work that way. Shiralee, seriously, this has got to be one of the most fascinating ones I've done for podcasts. I can't thank you enough. What are a couple of takeaways that you can give everyone with the barriers? Actually, I don't call them barriers, just differences that you have.
Yeah. Always come back around is the biggest takeaway I could give anyone. If you're talking to somebody and they just don't seem to be getting it, or you've asked them to do something and they didn't do it, or always come back around. Don't think they didn't do it because they couldn't understand. Don't think they didn't do it because they don't like you. Don't think they didn't do it because... Give it another crack.
Yeah.
I'm constantly feeling disheartened because people dismiss us because, oh, she didn't get it. Well, give me another way of doing it. Explain it another way. Don't just verbally attack me. Maybe, show me. Maybe give me a diagram. Maybe, nobody... I feel like in this life, nobody doesn't want to be heard. Nobody doesn't want to do something if it's within their power. Nobody like wants to ignore people. Just give it another go. Invisible disabilities are always going to far outweigh the ones that you can see. And don't try to make people do things your way. Other ways are acceptable. And don't try and make people do things that they literally can't do. If I don't have the bit in my brain can make other ways to get around it, but I don't have that bit. It would be like asking a paraplegic to get up and dance.
Yeah.
Find another way. And we're all the same. Like, we're literally all the same. We have the same blood, we have the same heart, we have the same thoughts and feelings, we have love, we have emotions, we are people. We're not disabled people, we're not able people, we're not neurotypical, neurodivergent. There's no divide between anybody. We are all people and we are all different in our own ways. And that's what makes the world just such a beautiful and wonderful place to be in. So embrace it. Embrace it and find out new ways to do things that you never thought you could do before.
Shiralee, thank you. That was
That's
just
okay.
awesome. Shiralee, how can people contact you to keep talking to you?
Oh, I love talking to people and finding new ways to do different things. You can contact me on my email, which is helloshiralee, SHIRALEE @gmail.com. And I specialize in finding ways for people to do things that they've always wanted to do, but never thought they could.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks again. I will make sure that's on the end of our podcast. Shiralee, it's been a real pleasure. I have learned so much in what, 15, 20 minutes. Yeah, just wonderful. And have a great 2025. And
You too.
If everyone likes what we do, please like, subscribe, share, review. Ask Shiralee how to do another way to follow what we're doing. And just remember, we are all just normal people. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.